So this was week 3 of free training, my third session ever. I weighed in at 164.4 pounds today, and that's give or take a little bit because like food, did you use the bathroom, yada yada. But right about 165, week 3. So next, I'm going to show you each of the 7 movement patterns, videos of each of them, and I'm going to voice overlay and kind of talk you through what's going on in each of them as well. So here we go. So as I start off here, I'm going to keep my feet off the ground, not use any assistance whatsoever until I need the assistance. You're always using as little assistance as you need to move the load being my body weight for this pull-up. My form cues here are keeping my deep core tight, like the same muscle you use when you try to stop yourself from going to the bathroom. And I keep my neck flexors engaged. So that way, at the very top and the very bottom of my spine, I'm tight, which keeps everything in the middle tight. And here you can see I'm using my feet for just as much assistance as I need because I'm starting to fail at certain points. And I get contraction all the way to the top. I did another set of vertical pull because I thought I still had some juice left in the tank. After the first set, I kind of just took some breaths, assessed my body, listened to it, figured I had one more set left in the tank. I switched up the grip a bit, as you can see. My hands are now facing inwards, my palms facing each other. And once again, my form cues. Neck flexors are tight, deep core is tight. I get full contraction at the top, and you can see that's where I failed right there. So that's where I put my feet down, and I'm using just as little assistance as I can in order to keep moving the weight. And that's vertical pull. Next, I did vertical push. And my form cues on this one are I'm trying to keep my spine as long as possible. Once again, keeping my core tight, neck flexors engaged. And I want to stop my elbows from flaring out. So to adjust the load throughout this, I am either raising or lowering my hips. So where it gets harder, you can see I drop my hips a little bit. My hips are dropped, and then I raise them up as I'm pressing up because it's easier to press at the top of the motion if you don't increase the load relative to the bottom. So I'm going down. It's getting a little bit harder to handle, so I'm lowering my hips a little bit. And then as I'm pressing up, in order to keep it at max intensity, I raise my hips and get them a little bit more over my center of gravity. I had 2 sets in the tank today. So once again, going down, lower my hips a little bit. As I come up, I try to get my hips a little more over my body. I could have done a better job keeping my spine long on this one. So I'll note that for next week. I'm pressing up. As I come up, trying to get my hips just a little bit more over my body. So for horizontal push, I'm doing what's called a planche push-up. And a key aspect of a planche push-up versus a regular push-up is when you're at the top of a planche push-up, you lean your weight forward relative to a normal push-up, so that way you get more load on your shoulders. So that way you can have high intensity even at the top of the rep, where a push-up usually has very little intensity. So on my way down here, I'm trying to focus on the eccentric a lot and listen to my body, see if it doesn't like any positions I'm getting into. And then I adjust my feet based upon what I feel. So if I move backward like that, shuffle my feet backwards and get my torso directly under the ropes, that's going to make it more difficult. And then when I scooch my feet forward, that's making it easier. So I'm adjusting the difficulty based upon how I'm doing. I want to be pretty much failing. And on that last rep, the rings were a little close together for me, so I moved them apart. And now here, I'm going to do my second rep. I focus on protraction at the top. Right there, that's me getting into protraction. And then very intentionally listening to my body on the eccentric on the way down. If you have questions about what some of these words mean, protraction, eccentric, concentric, just put your questions in the comments. Walking my feet forward to make it easier there because I was failing. So this is my horizontal pull. I am doing an inverted row. And this one, I don't have it quite figured out how to really keep it at max intensity the entire time. I've gotten better over the past 3 sessions. Like, this was definitely my best yet at really failing my way through the rep, but I still have a long way to go as far as really figuring out how to keep it at max intensity fluidly. So pretty much what I'm doing is, as you can see, going through the full range. I'm trying to get protracted at the bottom, let my shoulders hang, and then I want to squeeze it at the top best I can. And I'm lifting up my feet to kind of play around with how much load I am moving at a given time. So right there, I'm failing pretty good. So I'm adjusting my body weight. When I move backward like that, shifting my feet, that just made it easier because I got my weight out of direct line with gravity. So next is downward push on a dip bar. And so my form cues here, I'm trying to keep my core tight. So that way, as I go down, I don't end up putting too much load on my shoulders. I really try to keep my core tight when I'm doing a dip in order to make it loaded on the chest in addition to the shoulders. And I don't come straight down. I try to come forward a little bit. Keep my elbows in place, but shift my body forward. And you can see I'm going to use my feet so that I can keep moving because I'm failing and I'm using just as little assistance as I need in order to keep moving the weight. I felt I had one more rep in the tank, but I knew I needed more assistance, so I lowered the bar just to make it easier to assist myself. Coming down, core tight, protecting my shoulders on the way down, listening to my body on the way down, carefully monitoring how the eccentric feels, so that way I don't expose myself to injury by working through pain. I try to never work through pain. Discomfort's good because if you are working through discomfort and breathing through it, then you can rewire your brain in order to unlock that position or that movement, but never pain. Now you're watching a lower body push. I'm doing a single leg, pistol squat. I have 35 pounds on my shoulder. So as I'm going down, I'm keeping my core tight and feeling out the eccentric, seeing if it feels good in this position, how much assistance I'll need. And then as I'm going up, I'm using as little assistance as possible. When I get to the top, it's fairly easy because 35 pounds isn't a whole lot at the top of the range. But at the bottom of the range, it feels like a truckload. So I'm definitely using a fair amount of assistance, from my hand at the bottom of the range there. So these reps, I could have theoretically gone a higher weight in order to have it more intense at the top, but they worked. They were good enough for now. So this is lower body pull. I'm working concentric knee flexion using a Nord stick. That's the thing that is keeping my heels locked in. That's looped under the door there. So when I'm doing the Nordic curl, I am using as little assistance from my hands as I can and bending my hips as little as I can in order to keep it as max intensity. The more you bend your hips, the easier a Nordic curl is. And these are great because they're such a potent way of strengthening knee flexion, which provides protective benefits during a high performance activity. So that's what a free training regimen looks like. You can apply the concept though of full range extreme exertion to whatever movement pattern you want. Those are the ones I choose because they're pretty big, pretty compound, and I'm looking to just get a good base of strength training in efficiently. So those are the 7 I'm going for. Also, you might have noticed I didn't actually do proper triple flexion or triple extension. I just did lower push and pull. I do flexion and extension in my ankles, and I do hip flexion on like my mobility day. So I didn't do those today. And then definitely could be better. It's a learning process. Like I said, this is only my 3rd session, so definitely gonna get better at maxing out intensity on the inverted row, for example. And I, over time, will get better range of motion in my vertical press, because you might have seen, like I stopped when my head got to the ground here, but eventually this will be the range of my vertical press, not just this. But it'll come with time. And I think the most important thing for me to say is if you're gonna try this, you gotta be intuitive. You gotta listen to your body. You gotta go slowly on the negatives, get into the position slowly, be breathing throughout, and really listen to your body, because if you encounter pain and then you try to keep working through it, that pretty much is your brain telling you we're exposed to a risk of injury right now. If you are in pain, do not do a motion. However, if you encounter discomfort, that's your brain saying, we're not really sure right now if we can do this or not. So if you take a little time, intentionally breathe into an uncomfortable position, then you will unlock it. So work to and through discomfort. Do not work through pain, ever. And probably the last thing I'll say, disclaimer, is it does look a little weird. It's kind of ugly. There's some grunting happening. So it's nice if you can set it up in your own space. And I do have all the tools I need here in my apartment to do my routine. I just do it at the gym because it's a lot easier to film than on my pull-up bar in the doorway there. There's just less space. But pretty much all you need is, you don't even need the Nord stick, the thing for Nordic curls. You can just have your buddy sit on a couch and weight it down and stick your feet under the couch. And so if you want to start this, really the only thing you really should have is a set of rings. And then if you have a set of rings, something to hang them from, then you can pretty much do it all. So if you have any questions, any comments, constructive criticisms, just put them in the comments. Thank you.